Well, we're joined now by Stephen Portnoy of ABC News to sort of get the very latest on the investigation of what happened at the Navy Yards yesterday. Stephen, as I sit here from my vaunted perch and look at all of the reporting about this, there seems to be one question that's emerging. Okay, this guy, Aaron Alexis, he has 2 arrests that have to do with guns. No charges were filed, but he was arrested twice. He was discharged from the Navy because of some conduct issues, and yet he retains his secret clearance and is hired by a Navy contractor to do sensitive work inside a high-security facility. How is that allowed?
Excellent questions, especially in the wake of what's happened in the last year or two with Bradley Manning, Edward Snowden. Lots of questions about the security clearance system and how carefully, we know how hard it is to get a security clearance, but how carefully do they really look at people in their past? We know Aaron Alexis had, at least as you mentioned, 2 gun incidents. Once in 2004 in Seattle, where it's alleged he shot out the tires of a construction worker's car that was parked in front of his apartment. He told police at that time that he was so fueled with anger that he blacked out and couldn't remember what he'd done. His father told police that Aaron Alexis was a 9/11 first responder in New York City and that may have resulted in some kind of post-traumatic stress. In 2010, he was arrested in Fort Worth, Texas, where he'd been stationed because he allegedly fired his weapon into the upstairs apartment. Now, the person who lived upstairs said that she believed that he did it on purpose because she was too loud and couldn't keep it down. He told police that it was a mistake while he was cleaning his gun, an accident, and they never charged him. They bought his story. But shortly thereafter, he was given a general discharge from the Navy in January 2011, and after that began working most recently for a subcontractor for Hewlett-Packard. He was given, because his security clearance dating back to 2007, he was given access to work on the Navy Marine Corps intranet, and that's how he had access to the Navy Yard.
Stephen Portnoy is our guest from ABC News. And, Stephen, I know you were there all day yesterday. You're back down on the scene this morning. We appreciate that. I'm trying to piece together the scene yesterday. We do know that this killer, Aaron Alexis, died in a shootout with the police. Do we know how long that shootout occurred? Was it an extended period of time where they exchanged gunfire?
We tried to ask Police Chief Kathy Lanier that question yesterday. She refused to answer, except to say that it was multiple exchanges with police. Multiple times they fired at one another. Police officers from both the D.C. Police and U.S. Park Police exchanging gunfire with Aaron Alexis until finally they got him. Now, only one police officer, Scott Williams, was injured in the lower extremities. Police Chief Kathy Lanier described his injuries as serious. He was in surgery yesterday, but they say he's going to be okay.
There's also one part of yesterday's events that still there's not a whole lot of details about, and that is the victim outside of the Navy Yard at the metro stop at M in New Jersey in front of that CVS. Do we have more details about what happened there?
No, and to truth be told, I mean, it's a pretty long walk between the CVS at M and New Jersey Avenue and the Navy Yard, and there was nothing yesterday to indicate when I got here, which was 45 minutes after the shooting, that area was secure or was being secured by police. So I know we saw that picture, as you did, Larry, of a man who was lying on the ground, hovered over by people. But I have not heard anybody say that indeed was a gunshot victim and that was connected to what happened at the Navy Yard several blocks away. Now, that's all I can tell you.
Okay. All right, so let me ask you this question because, as we were sitting here trying to sort fact from fiction, what was true, what was not true, what was correct, it was difficult for us sitting back here in the studio where we have all these different streams of information coming to it. What was it like there on the scene as you were trying to gather information? Because a lot of the information turned out initially to be wrong. There was conflicting information. I'm not suggesting you made any mistakes, but other people did.
Other networks certainly did. Other networks have retracted their reporting because they went on the air and said somebody's name that had nothing to do with this. We are very careful. We check, we double-check, we get multiple sources. That said, it was very difficult on the ground yesterday to get a handle on what was going on, and you could appreciate now only in hindsight just how difficult it would be because, as Kathy Lanier put it yesterday, multiple exchanges with the gunman. There was, up until last night, 10 o'clock last night, there was still this possibility that yet one more person was still out there. They were looking for this one particular individual who they identified on surveillance video, but they said overnight they have established that that person had nothing to do with all this. For those of us who were here on the ground yesterday with intermittent rain on and off, waiting huddled at a corner, about 100 of us in the press, desperate for the latest information, what we got came in drips and drabs on the record, and it was free-flowing. I mean, the mayor came out at first and said there were only 4 people wounded, and there was no count of fatalities. But by the end of the day last night, with the city police department, the park police, the FBI, and the mayor all speaking at the same press conference with one voice, we had finally some clarity. And overnight we learned even more, that Aaron Alexis recently bought a shotgun at a Northern Virginia gun store. Questions there. I mean, if he had 2 prior gun arrests at least, shouldn't he have been in some kind of a background system if he had been convicted of a felony? And that's still a question out there. We don't know the final disposition of what happened in Seattle in 2004. We know he was not actually charged in Texas in 2010, but if he had been convicted of a felony in Washington State, he should have been in the system.
Well,
but we don't know that's what happened. We have to check the records today.
And Stephen Portnoy, you lead me to my last question here. We're almost out of time, but that is confirmed now that he did buy a shotgun in Lorton, Virginia. That's what the Washington Post was reporting. But we don't know if that shotgun was involved in the events yesterday. We also have heard that he had what they're calling an assault-type weapon. But do we know if he brought it onto the base? Because there are also reports that he went to a locker on the base and got a weapon from within the base.
I haven't heard a report about a locker, but ABC's Pierre Thomas is reporting via his sources that the prevailing theory is now that he walked onto the post or drove on with his...
Well, we lost him.
Oh, we lost Stephen Portnoy. All right.
All right.
Great stuff as always from Stephen Portnoy, ABC
Yeah.
News. Thanks for joining us.